Hey guys, tonight we travel back. Not just centuries, but thousands of years, to meet civilizations so ancient that even their ghosts have forgotten their names. You probably wouldn't last a day in their world, mostly because it wasn't designed for comfort, and definitely not for the conveniences you take for granted. No beds, no light switches, no coffee in the morning. Just wind, stone, and the endless patience of people who built with faith instead of machines. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing where in the world these quiet stories find you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in a desert that stretches past the horizon. The sand is cool beneath your feet, the air almost too still to breathe. There's no map, no sign, no sound of life except the faint whisper of dust sliding down an unseen slope. Somewhere beneath all this emptiness lie the bones of entire civilizations, cities that once thrummed with laughter, worship, and trade, now buried so deep that even time forgot to visit. You take a step forward, and the ground gives slightly, like you've just disturbed a secret. That's the strange thing about the ancient world. It hides in plain sight. Every dune might cover a temple. Every rock could be a carved fragment of a story no one remembers. Historians still argue whether we've even found half of what once existed, whether beneath Egypt's deserts or under the jungles of South America. Entire chapters of human history are still sealed in silence. You kneel, brush away a patch of sand, and see a faint outline of stone. It's been shaped, chiseled by hand. The marks are too deliberate to be nature's doing. Someone was here a long time ago. Maybe they stood where you stand now, squinting into the same kind of sunrise, imagining that what they built would last forever. But it didn't. Nothing ever does. Not kingdoms, not gods, not even languages. What remains are fragments, walls without roofs, altars without prayers, sculptures that have forgotten who they were made for. And yet, there's a hum beneath it all. A rhythm. The earth remembers. A breeze stirs the sand again, whispering as if to say, "We were here." You can almost hear it, the heartbeat of forgotten builders, the murmur of craftsmen talking as they shaped stones heavier than elephants. Some carried them for miles without wheels, without metal, without even the word architecture. Just belief and endless repetition. A mainstream fact. Archaeologists estimate that over 90% of the world's ancient ruins remain undiscovered, still hidden beneath layers of sediment and vegetation. That means most of human history is still buried, literally. What you learn in museums is a fragment, like trying to understand a song from one surviving note. You step back and close your eyes. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you begin to imagine it. Dust swirling into form, outlines of walls, the faint shimmer of torchlight. A city is rising around you, stone by stone, as if time itself is reversing. Towers grow taller, plazas fill with sound, and air thickens with incense and trade. There's a flicker of memory in the wind, too, of people you'll never meet but somehow already know. A woman grinding grain, a man painting symbols on wet clay, a child chasing shadows across a courtyard. None of them knew you'd be here one day, dreaming their dreams backward. And yet you are. Because that's what these ruins do, they pull you in. They remind you that even when a civilization vanishes, it doesn't truly die. It seeps into everything. The soil, the rivers, the air, and sometimes into our collective memory. That strange déjà vu you get when you walk through an old place? Maybe it's not imagination. Maybe it's inheritance. A fringe tidbit. Some researchers believe that ancient stone structures may literally store sound frequencies from rituals and daily life, tiny vibrations etched into rock, like a primitive record. If that's true, then every ancient wall might still be humming softly, filled with echoes no ear can quite catch. You open your eyes again. The desert has gone quiet. The stars are sharper now, like pins pressing through silk. You sense something beneath your feet, an entire world sleeping under the sand, dreaming of the days it was alive. Historians still argue whether civilizations truly vanish, or if they simply become invisible, absorbed into the cultures that follow. You take a slow breath, listening. Maybe tonight, you'll get to find out for yourself. Somewhere ahead, there's a glimmer of moonlight over broken stone. You begin to walk toward it. The first step of a long, gentle descent into the forgotten. You follow the wind. It slides past your shoulders like an invisible guide, tugging you toward a horizon that shimmers between desert and memory. The sound of your steps fades into the hush of the coastal desert of Peru, a place so dry that time itself seems to have forgotten to move. This is Cairo, or what remains of it. Long before the pyramids of Egypt, long before the walls of Babylon or the marble of Rome, people here were already building monuments that reached toward the sky. There are no armies, no carved records of conquest. Just plazas, staircases, and flute holes made from pelican bones. It's strange, you realize, to stand in a city that thrived without war. You wander closer. The sand gives way to smooth platforms of stone and clay. Pyramids rise in gentle steps, softened by wind. Historians still argue whether Cairo was a mother city, a prototype for all that came after, or a lucky experiment that flourished in isolation. Either way, its very existence rewrites what we thought civilization needed. Not swords, but songs. A few archaeologists found quipus here, knotted cords used for keeping numbers, but no weapons. Instead, they discovered flutes, drums, and resonant amphitheaters built to carry music into the dry night air. Imagine it, thousands of people gathering under a waxing moon, the wind sweeping through the valley, amplifying the sound until the dunes themselves vibrate. A mainstream fact, Cairo dates to around 2600 BCE, making it as old as the earliest Egyptian pyramids. Yet it had no fortifications, no evidence of warfare, and no signs of weapon making. In an age when most early societies survived through conquest, this one built an empire of calm. You step inside one of the great sunken plazas. The circular walls feel like a bowl made to hold the sky. The sand here still hums faintly, as if sound itself was pressed into the earth. You imagine standing among thousands, not shouting, not fighting, just listening to the wind pass between flutes, carrying melodies across the valley of soup. Somewhere in the distance, a faint glow flickers, firelight from homes long gone. You can almost see the women weaving, the traders unrolling nets full of dried fish, the priests tracing lines in the sand to read the breath of the wind. It's peaceful in a way the modern world rarely is. A quirky tidbit, some researchers believe that Cairo's architecture may have been tuned to the wind, using natural air currents to create sound. The city might have sung on its own, a vast instrument built for the gods of air. If true, then Cairo wasn't just a city, it was a living hymn. You walk the perimeter of a pyramid, its slope worn smooth like a sleeping creature. The moonlight spills over the terraces, and you realize these structures weren't built by slaves or soldiers, but by citizens who believed cooperation itself was sacred. Historians still argue whether Cairo's peace was intentional, a philosophical choice, or simply the product of prosperity in a fertile valley. Maybe both. Maybe its people had learned that harmony was cheaper than war. You crouch near the remnants of a staircase, tracing a line of ancient mortar. It's still solid even after 5,000 years. The desert preserved everything, not just walls, but the feeling of stillness, the absence of violence. You think about the noise of your own world, cities that never sleep, people always shouting to be heard. And yet here, in a city older than written language, silence was the foundation. Above you, the stars shimmer in their fixed places, just as they did for the people of Cairo. Maybe they looked up and saw the same constellations, wondering if the gods were listening to their songs. Maybe they believed the wind carried their prayers down the coast, over the Pacific, across mountains not yet named. You take one last breath of that air, cool, salty, faintly musical, and you realize something simple and unsettling. We always thought civilization began with power. But maybe, once upon a time, it began with peace. The wind shifts again, and you turn your head toward the east. There's something in the distance, not a city this time, but stones rising from dust, perfectly round and impossibly heavy. You start walking. The next mystery is waiting. You walk toward the rising edge of dawn, where the desert meets the memory of another world. The air cools, thickens, and shifts, and suddenly the sand under your feet becomes something heavier, dust turning to gravel, gravel to earth, earth to stone. The light changes too, from silver to amber, and you know you've arrived somewhere sacred. The ground ahead is scattered with circles of massive pillars, each carved, each placed deliberately, each humming faintly with age. You've reached Göbekli Tepe, the temple before time, where humans first raised stone to sky long before cities, kings, or writing existed. It's quiet now, but you can almost hear what it must have been like 12,000 years ago. Torches flickering in the night, drums echoing across the plain, animal skins rustling in the cold Anatolian wind. Men and women, still half hunters, half farmers, gathered here, lifting stones that weighed as much as elephants. And for what? Not food. Not shelter. Something else. Something divine. You trace your hand along one of the pillars. Its surface is smooth, cold, and carved with animals. Foxes, snakes, vultures, lions, creatures of danger and reverence. The carvings wrap around the stone like stories you can almost understand. They don't tell of war or kings, but of connection between sky and soil, life and death. A mainstream fact, Göbekli Tepe is over 11,000 years old, built around 9,600 BC, long before Stonehenge, the pyramids, or even pottery. It's the oldest known temple on Earth, built by hunter-gatherers who weren't supposed to know how to build anything permanent. And yet, here it is, massive, intricate, spiritual. Historians still argue whether the temple was a place of worship, initiation, or burial. Some even suggest it wasn't a temple at all, but a gathering place to mark the dawn of organized thought. The first time humanity looked at the stars and asked, why? You walk between two towering pillars shaped like giant T's, their tops almost brushing the pale morning sky. Their arrangement forms circles, perfect and deliberate, suggesting mathematics long before numbers were written. It's strange to imagine that these same people, who still hunted gazelles and wild boar, already dreamed of cosmic order. A quirky tidbit, when archaeologists first excavated Göbekli Tepe, they found that it had been intentionally buried around 8,000 BC. Someone, perhaps the very people who built it, covered the entire site with soil and stone, sealing it like a memory too sacred to leave exposed. But no one knows. Maybe it was reverence, maybe fear, or maybe they thought the gods had already spoken. You crouch, touching the fine dust between the pillars. It's soft, almost silky. Tiny fragments of bone and flint glint under your fingers, the remnants of meals, tools, and rituals. You picture them gathered here, offering food to unseen forces, maybe whispering names that don't survive. You can almost smell the smoke of burning herbs, the musk of animal fat, the faint iron scent of sacrifice. Historians still argue whether Göbekli Tepe's builders discovered agriculture after they built it, or because they built it. Some think this temple forced them to stay, to plant, to organize, to feed the laborers who raised the stones. In that sense, this place didn't just mark the birth of religion. It may have birthed civilization itself. You walk to the center of one of the stone circles. The pillars around you seem to lean slightly inward, like silent watchers. Above, the sky burns pale blue, stretching forever. You whisper something, anything, just to see if the stones will answer. They don't, but somehow you feel heard. A fringe idea. Some believe Göbekli Tepe wasn't just a temple but a map of the stars. Its pillars align with constellations that marked the sky during the Younger Dryas, a period of sudden global cooling around 10,000 BC. If true, then its builders recorded the heavens with more precision than many later empires. Imagine that, Stone Age astronomers staring up at Orion, carving its shape into stone. The sun creeps higher, catching the edges of the carvings. The animals seem to move as shadows shift, a vulture's wings beating, a serpent slithering, a fox leaping toward the light. It feels alive, as if the stones themselves are remembering their purpose. You exhale slowly. The air is thick, ancient. You think about how fragile memory is, how so much can be lost and yet so much remains. These stones survived glaciers, wars, and neglect. And still they whisper, patient and eternal. When you finally step away, the ground feels lighter. The sound of the wind returns, the same wind that once carried the prayers of those first dreamers. You glance back one last time, and in the slanting light, the pillars seem to form a circle that looks human. Two arms raised to the sky. Civilization, you realize, didn't begin with tools. It began with awe. You keep walking, and the land beneath you starts to shimmer again, shifting like water into something new, walls, colors, and myths painted on plaster. Ahead waits another forgotten dream, a labyrinth where gods and monsters dance together. You step forward, and the dust of Göbekli Tepe dissolves into something softer, warmer, a golden haze rising from the Aegean. The wind now carries salt, not sand. The earth is no longer barren but blooming, painted with olive groves and wild thyme. And there, on a rise above a shimmering plain of sea, stands a vast palace, walls of red and white, corridors that twist like thought itself. You've arrived in Knossos, the beating heart of Minoan Crete, a civilization that lived in color when much of the world still dreamt in stone. The morning hums with life. Women in flounced skirts carry baskets of saffron. Boys chase doves through colonnaded courtyards. Artisans chip away at ivory and gold, shaping pendants of bulls, lilies, and double axes, labries, symbols of balance and mystery. The air smells of honey and smoke, and somewhere, deep within the palace, a drum begins to beat. The sound seems to pulse through the floor, rhythmic, hypnotic. You follow it. The corridors of Knossos twist in impossible ways. Light filters through painted frescoes, dolphins leaping over blue waves, dancers spinning in ritual arcs. No door seems final, no path straight. It's easy to understand why later Greeks would imagine this as a labyrinth, a place designed not to trap bodies, but to unravel the mind. Mainstream historians tell us that Knossos flourished between 2000 and 1400 BC, long before the Parthenon, long before Athens dreamed of democracy. It was a center of peace, art, and trade. Ships from Egypt, Cyprus, and Anatolia docked here, bringing obsidian, papyrus, and spices. Yet the Minoans built no great walls. Their defense was the sea and perhaps their mystery. As you walk deeper, the murals begin to change. Now they show youths vaulting over bulls, bodies arched in graceful defiance of danger. You stop before one such image, a boy frozen mid-leap, fingers brushing the bull's horns, muscles taut, fearless. It feels impossible, like flight caught in paint. A voice in your head, quiet, patient, whispers that this was not sport but ritual. The bull was sacred, a living symbol of power and fertility. To leap it was to bridge the mortal and divine, to risk death and become myth. A quirky fact, the word labyrinth may come from labries, the double axe of the Minoans, a symbol often carved into walls and pillars. So the labyrinth might not have been a maze at all, but a house of the double axe, a temple of ritual and rhythm. You turn a corner and find a small chamber. Inside, sunlight spills over a fresco of a woman, her eyes wide, her hair dark as ink, her skin painted in cool ochre. She holds snakes in both hands, their bodies coiling like living ribbons. This is the snake goddess, priestess, protector, mother of all. Around her, time seems to breathe slower. She was not a queen in the mortal sense. The Minoans didn't worship kings but forces, fertility, renewal, the pulse of the earth. Her image has survived millennia, though her name is lost. Still, the power in her gaze crosses time unbroken. You stand before her, and for a moment, the walls flicker, torches bloom, incense thickens, and the distant echo of chanting fills the air. You feel yourself drawn into the rhythm, that endless beat that once guided ceremonies under painted ceilings. A historical note: when archaeologists unearthed Knossos, they found the ruins layered and complex, a palace rebuilt many times after earthquakes. Each rebuild added rooms, stairways, and shrines, until the architecture itself became a memory spiral, a physical manifestation of continuity. Some say this constant rebuilding inspired the later myth of Daedalus and the labyrinth, of Theseus and the Minotaur. Perhaps not a monster, but a memory, a metaphor for the human need to make sense of complexity, to find a path through the corridors of history itself. The sun sinks lower, turning the plastered walls to molten gold. You hear laughter outside, distant, like waves breaking against the port. For a civilization so rich in life, it's haunting to remember how quietly they vanished. No epic war ended the Minoans. No invaders soared. Around 1450 BCE, earthquakes, fires, and maybe the eruption of Thera, present-day Santorini, shattered their world. The ash fell, crops failed, trade collapsed. The frescoes darkened. The drums stopped. Yet, in the ruins, there's still warmth. You imagine a priestess walking through the wreckage one last time, fingertips brushing the frescoes, whispering thanks to the gods who had once danced here. She buries the sacred objects, the snake idols, the double axes, not in fear, but in reverence. To preserve, not destroy. The air around you cools again. The drums fade into silence. You walk back through the labyrinth, past the dolphins, the leaping bulls, the vanished laughter. When you step outside, the horizon is no longer the Aegean but a void of shadow and starlight. And somewhere in that infinite dark, a voice says softly, "Everything ends, but nothing is lost." The stars tremble, rearranging themselves into constellations, a lion, a serpent, a cross. You're moving again, carried across centuries, toward deserts, kings, and broken empires. The next dawn will bring the birth of cities and the long shadow of gods made in man's image. The stars fade into the pale glow of dawn, and with them, the whispers of the Aegean recede. You awaken to the hush of desert wind, the kind that erases footprints moments after they're made. Before you lies a horizon drawn in gold and silence, the Nile Valley, cradle of gods and geometry, where civilization learned to shape eternity. The air is still cool, but already heavy with promise. Across the sands, workers move like ants, carrying limestone blocks on sledges greased with oil and water. You squint, and the morning light catches on something vast, edges too perfect to be natural, surfaces that catch the sun like mirrors. The pyramids rise before you. Their scale feels impossible. Even from miles away, the Great Pyramid of Khufu dominates everything. 2.3 million stones, each cut and placed with precision no modern crane could easily replicate. You try to imagine the sound of its making, the strike of copper chisels, the murmur of commands, the rhythmic groan of ropes. A common myth says these were built by slaves, whipped under a merciless sun. But archaeologists have found something else: villages of workers who were well-fed, housed, and honored for their labor. They weren't slaves, they were builders of gods, artisans of immortality. You walk among them, unseen. A man wipes sweat from his brow and laughs as he bites into a date. A woman shapes beer jars beside a kiln. The air smells of yeast, clay, and crushed reeds. A boy hums as he polishes copper tools. It's a living city, fueled not by oppression, but devotion, a grand offering made from human hands to the horizon itself. Historians still argue whether the pyramid's design was purely mathematical or deeply spiritual. Perhaps both. To the Egyptians, order was sacred. Ma'at, the cosmic balance between chaos and harmony. Every block placed aligned not just to the stars, but to this moral geometry. And yet, there's an unease here too. You feel it as you enter the shadow of the pyramid. The temperature drops. The noise of the workers fades. Inside, the air is cool and close, the silence absolute. You follow a sloping passage lined with limestone so polished it catches the glimmer of your torch. At last, you reach a chamber. It's empty, save for a stone sarcophagus. No gold, no inscriptions. Just space, geometry, and the echo of breath. A quirky tidbit for you: the pyramid's central chamber is aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, and its base forms a near-perfect square. If you divided its perimeter by its height, you'd get a number startlingly close to 2 pi, the same constant that governs circles, orbits, and time itself. Coincidence? Maybe. But it makes you wonder whether the builders understood something we've forgotten: that architecture could be an act of cosmic mimicry. You place a hand on the wall. The stone feels faintly warm, as though it remembers the sun. Somewhere above, the wind stirs dust across the plateau. Out there, The Nile glints like liquid glass, winding endlessly north. In the village below, the workers rest. Bread bakes in clay ovens, fish dries on reed mats. At dusk, they'll sing hymns to Ra, to the setting sun, to the promise that light always returns. You think of them, not as nameless laborers, but as people who lived with wonder. Every cut of stone was a prayer, every breath part of a ritual. The line between work and worship blurred until there was no difference. Outside again, the pyramid glows in the sunset. Its shadow stretches across the desert like a sundial measuring eternity. A flock of ibises wheels above, wings catching firelight. And then, as night falls, you see it. The stars return, the same ones the builders aligned their monuments to. Orion's belt hangs just above the pyramid's tip, exactly where they meant it to be. Historians still argue whether this alignment was intentional, whether Khufu's architects built a celestial map in stone. But looking at it now, you can't help but feel they were reaching for something beyond themselves. A promise written in geometry. A message that says, we were here. We understood the sky. The wind sighs, lifting grains of sand that dance like ghosts. You step back, watching the pyramid dissolve into shadow, until it's just an outline, a thought etched into the horizon. And as you turn to leave, the last light of the day spills over your shoulder, whispering, even the sand remembers. The desert fades behind you, replaced by the warm ochre of riverbanks where civilizations first learned to write. You step into Mesopotamia, a land of rivers, reeds, and mud brick cities, where kings, scribes, and gods intertwined in endless, dusty drama. The sun catches on the edges of Akkad, Mari, and Ebla, cities now vanished, leaving only whispers in clay. You tread carefully along streets that no longer exist, imagining the rhythm of life. Merchants call out their wares, barley, wool, silver. Children chase each other through narrow alleyways, laughing, dodging carts. Scribes sit in open courtyards, pressing cuneiform into wet clay tablets, recording transactions, poetry, and prayers. Somewhere, a priest traces the stars, noting their movements in a reed-made notebook. Historians still argue whether Akkad was the first empire or just a fleeting experiment in centralized power. Either way, its kings left behind words that survived millennia, etched into stone and clay, echoes of their ambition. You pause before a wall carved from basalt. Symbols cover its surface, stars, animals, abstract lines. Someone long ago took hours, perhaps days, to press every wedge into the clay with deliberate care. The markings tell stories of floods, kings, gods, and ordinary people trying to survive. These weren't just decorative, they were memories, encoded for future generations who would struggle to understand them. A mainstream fact: cuneiform is the world's first known writing system, developed around 3200 BCE in Sumer. It began as accounting, evolved into literature, and eventually chronicled empires, treaties, and cosmic fears. These inscriptions allow us to peek into lives that otherwise would have vanished completely. You run your fingers over the grooves. They are worn, softened by centuries of dust and handling, but still precise. Each wedge represents a decision, a thought, a claim to existence. Somehow, despite the centuries, you feel the humanity in them, not the rulers or the temples, but the everyday people recording their world with devotion and clarity. A quirky tidbit: some tablets record mundane items like beer rations and sheep counts, the earliest receipts of human history. The first bureaucratic boredom, preserved forever. Yet even in these mundane details, you catch hints of humor, rivalry, and personal pride. Someone scribbled numbers in such a way that it feels almost like they were grinning at future readers. You follow the riverbank, imagining boats laden with goods and news. The Euphrates glints in sunlight, carrying whispers of Mesopotamian life downstream. Temples rise above mud brick houses, ziggurats reaching toward the heavens, each layer representing not just devotion, but mastery over the very earth. Historians still argue whether these ziggurats were primarily religious or also administrative centers, blending spiritual and civic authority into one towering statement of permanence. Perhaps both. a civilization acknowledging that gods and governance are inseparable. You crouch beside a broken tablet, its edges softened by sand. Its markings tell of floods, of kings losing favor, of treaties signed and broken. You feel the weight of it all, a tapestry of memory carved into clay, surviving when walls and monuments have crumbled. A final whisper: these cities vanished not by war alone, but by environment, trade collapse, and internal struggle. Yet the basalt and clay endure, giving voice to lives long gone. As you rise, the wind carries their murmurs, a chorus of human effort etched into stone, reminding you that even in disappearance, civilizations speak. You turn, walking along the dried riverbed, letting the memory of these voices fade behind you. Ahead lies another enigma, a distant island where stone faces watch silently, waiting for you to remember them. The river fades into a vast ocean horizon, and the smell of salt fills your nostrils. Waves lap gently against black volcanic rocks as you step onto a lonely island. The air is heavy with history, and your shadow stretches long over a landscape scattered with something almost impossible: colossal stone heads, staring blankly at the sky. This is Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, a place where silence itself seems monumental. The moai rise from the earth like frozen giants, their elongated heads and deep-set eyes exuding a quiet authority. No one lives here now except for the wind, the occasional bird, and you, a wanderer tracing a path through the memory of a civilization that vanished, leaving behind its monumental art as the only testimony. You approach one statue. Its features are serene, solemn, almost thoughtful. Fingers rest against the chin in subtle curves, lips pursed as if holding secrets too heavy for language. Historians still argue whether the moai were ancestors watching over their descendants, gods made in human form, or markers of complex social competition. Maybe all three. A mainstream fact: the moai were carved between 1250 and 1500 CE, often from volcanic tuff, and transported across the island without wheels, dragged, rolled, or walked upright using ropes and sheer human ingenuity. The engineering alone is astonishing. No one knows the full technique, and the debate continues, even among modern scholars and engineers. You trace your fingers along the rough surface. Small lichens cling stubbornly to the stone, tiny life clinging to permanence. Each moai weighs between 12 and 82 tons, yet the Rapa Nui moved them across uneven terrain, over hills and through valleys, to stand them upright on ceremonial platforms called ahu. The effort must have been staggering. A quirky tidbit: local legends say that the statues walked into place, that the spirits inside them moved the stones by themselves. It sounds impossible, and yet, watching them rise from the land, it almost feels true. You feel the sway of imagination as tangible as the stone beneath your hands. The island itself is wild and windswept. Grass bends under gusts, volcanic cones punctuate the horizon, and the Pacific rolls endlessly outward. You can imagine a society deeply attuned to their environment, one that measured the sky, the seasons, and the stars to plan construction, ceremonies, and survival. Historians still argue about the collapse of Rapa Nui society. Was it ecological overreach, warfare, or European contact? Perhaps it was a combination. Whatever the cause, the moai remain, guardians frozen in a landscape that remembers everything, even when people forget. You walk among the statues in the lengthening shadow of evening. Their faces turn toward the inland, toward the villages that have long since disappeared. You sense a quiet dialogue between stone and earth, between human effort and natural permanence. The wind carries a faint memory of chanting, drums, and carved canoes slipping into the sea. You feel the hum of the past through the soles of your feet, the pulse of a civilization that measured ambition not in gold, but in stone. As you turn to leave, the sun dips low, painting the moai in molten gold. Their faces seem softer now, almost alive in the warmth of fading light. You realize that despite all we do to forget, the essence of human devotion, to ancestors, gods, and creation itself, refuses to vanish entirely. Ahead, the landscape shifts again. Red sandstone cliffs appear, carved with secrets you haven't yet imagined. The desert calls once more, but in a different voice. a whisper of water, stone, and ingenuity waiting to be uncovered. You leave the Moai behind, the Pacific fading into memory, and find yourself at the edge of a different kind of desert, one carved by wind, sun, and human hands into a city of rose and ochre. The cliffs rise abruptly, walls of sandstone glowing in the early morning light. This is Petra, the lost city of the Nabateans, where silence is punctuated only by the occasional whisper of sand sliding through narrow canyons. You step into the Sick, a winding gorge whose high cliffs curve inward like the ribcage of a sleeping giant. The light is dim here, but as you emerge from the narrow passage, it strikes the treasury, Al-Khazna, in full brilliance. Its facade is carved directly from the rock, towering and intricate, 1,000 details etched into pink stone. You can almost hear the chisels striking centuries ago, echoes still lingering in the canyon walls. Historians still argue about Petra's origins, trade routes, and political structures. We know the Nabateans thrived between 4th century BCE and 2nd century CE, mastering water management, trade, and stone carving in ways that allowed a desert city to flourish where most settlements would have failed. You run your hand across the facade. The grooves feel warm and almost oily from centuries of wind and sand. There's a logic here, symmetry, proportion, elegance, that seems almost impossible for a people living so far from rivers, forests, or fertile valleys. Water was scarce, yet they built aqueducts, cisterns, and channels that harvested every drop of rain. Architecture was survival, yes, but also art, devotion, and pride. A mainstream fact, Petra was a hub on the incense route, connecting Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Traders brought frankincense, myrrh, and spices, leaving behind coins, inscriptions, and most enduringly, these rose-colored temples carved into cliffs. It was wealth without walls, security without fortresses, relying on geography, ingenuity, and community. You wander down stone staircases that lead to tombs, now silent but once filled with the smell of incense, rituals, and mourning. Some tombs are simple, others grand, their interiors decorated with carvings of deities, animals, and celestial symbols. The Nabateans believed death was part of life's ongoing rhythm, a transition rather than an end. A quirky tidbit: recent studies suggest the Nabateans may have designed echo chambers within their tombs to amplify prayers or protect secrets, a kind of acoustic engineering lost to time. Imagine speaking softly, only to hear your voice rise, reverberate, and fill the stone corridors as if the ancestors themselves were listening. You pause in a shaded courtyard, imagining water cascading from hidden channels, traders bartering goods, children running across the stone paths. You feel the pulse of life that once thrived here, now compressed into echoes and dust. Historians still debate whether Petra's decline was due to shifting trade routes, earthquakes, or Roman annexation. Perhaps all three conspired, or perhaps time itself simply moved on. The city was abandoned, yet it refuses to disappear completely. Its grandeur, ingenuity, and artistry persist, like a whisper in the desert wind. As evening falls, shadows stretch across the treasury, turning its facade to deep red. You can almost hear the city breathe, slow, patient, eternal. And you realize that the Nabateans, like every forgotten civilization before and after, sought permanence not through conquest, but through creation, harmony, and adaptation. Ahead, the horizon tilts upward into pyramids and avenues, geometry reaching toward the sky, the next mystery waiting to be walked, measured, and marveled at. The desert fades again, replaced by highlands shimmering in the haze of heat. You walk along a path flanked by colossal stone platforms, the sun glinting off flat terraces and the distant outlines of pyramids aligned with celestial precision. You've arrived at Tiran, the city of the gods, where streets are straight, broad, and impossibly ordered, and yet, the people who built it are cloaked in mystery. You step onto the Avenue of the Dead, its length stretching for miles, lined with towering pyramids, temples, and plazas. Despite the name, this was never a necropolis in the conventional sense. Historians still argue why it's called that, but the avenue pulses with life. You can imagine markets spilling over, priests walking in ceremonial robes, children racing along the steps, musicians striking drums and dancers tracing patterns on stone. The Pyramid of the Sun dominates the view. Rising over 200 feet, its base sprawls like a measured heartbeat across the valley. You pause at its foot, tracing each carved stone with your gaze. It's a feat of geometry, astronomy, and human determination, its sides perfectly aligned with the setting sun on specific days, hinting at rituals tied to celestial cycles. A mainstream fact, Teotihuacan was at its height around 100 CE, with an estimated population of 125,000, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. Its influence spread across Mesoamerica, shaping culture, architecture, and religious practices for centuries. You wander through a side alley and spot murals, abstract, yet vividly colored. Serpents coil, jaguars leap, and masks stare back at you, frozen in pigment that has survived centuries. Some images appear ceremonial, others symbolic. Some are mundane, showing daily life and domestic tasks. Scholars still debate their meanings, suggesting they might be maps, myths, or memory aids. A quirky tidbit: beneath the Pyramid of the Moon, archaeologists discovered a tunnel filled with offerings, jaguar bones, shells, obsidian, and even sacrificed humans. The ritual's exact purpose remains unknown. Maybe it was a prayer to the gods, a plea for rainfall, or a ceremonial reenactment of cosmic battles. The city's layout impresses further as you climb the Pyramid of the Sun. From above, the avenue runs straight for miles, connecting plazas, temples, and residential compounds. It's deliberate, almost uncanny, suggesting a civilization deeply aware of spatial, mathematical, and perhaps spiritual order. Historians still argue whether Teotihuacan was ruled by a single king, a council of elites, or some other political structure lost to time. What remains certain is its power to organize thousands of lives into a coherent, harmonious whole. A city built not for war, but for permanence, awe, and the worship of forces larger than any individual. You pause at the summit. The wind sweeps across the valley, carrying dust, pollen, and the faint memory of song. The pyramids, the avenue, the plazas, all pulse with the ghosts of ceremonies long ended, yet still alive in stone. As the sun dips low, shadows stretch across the city, turning stone to gold. You can almost hear the drums, the chants, and the prayers reverberating, like the heartbeat of a civilization still echoing across time. Ahead, the horizon undulates into sand dunes, flint-strewn plains, and temples older than kings, another memory waiting, whispering its secrets just out of reach. The sun's glow fades as you leave Teotihuacan behind, and a cold wind brushes your skin. The earth changes, rocky now, interspersed with fields of moss and lichen, the smell of peat heavy in the air. You are no longer in the valleys of Mexico but in the rolling plains and highlands of Scotland, where another type of monument waits, one not carved for gods of harvest, sun, or sky, but for memory, ritual, and the eternal stars. The landscape is dotted with standing stones, monoliths rising upright from the earth like guardians of a lost story. Some are tall and narrow, others squat and wide, some lean precariously, others are perfectly straight. You walk among them, sensing the centuries they have seen, hunters, farmers, druids, and wanderers who once placed these stones in alignment with celestial cycles. Historians still argue about the purpose of these megaliths. Were they tomb markers, astronomical calendars, ceremonial centers, or boundary stones? Perhaps all of these at once, a combination of memory, utility, and reverence. In a world without writing, stone was the voice of permanence. A mainstream fact: many of these structures date back to 3000 to 1500 BCE, predating even Stonehenge, though the larger and more famous circles elsewhere often overshadow them in popular imagination. The techniques used to move these heavy stones remain a subject of scholarly debate, involving ropes, sledges, and sheer human coordination. You trace the edge of a particularly tall monolith. Its surface is rough, pitted by weather, but you feel the faint remnants of chisel marks, the invisible fingerprints of hands long gone. There's a rhythm in the placement of these stones, subtle and deliberate, almost as if the land itself is singing through them. A quirky tidbit: in some arrangements, The stones align with the summer solstice sunrise, while others point to lunar standstills, indicating that these ancient builders had an intricate understanding of astronomy long before telescopes or written records existed. Imagine a society that used only observation, memory, and meticulous record-keeping to track the cosmos. As you wander, you notice a circle enclosing a shallow depression. A burial mound perhaps, though nothing remains but soil and stone. You crouch, feeling the cool earth under your fingertips, and imagine the people who once gathered here. Families honoring ancestors, tribes coordinating calendars, shamans chanting over fire and smoke. Historians still argue whether these rituals were communal or restricted to an elite class. Some evidence suggests both. A society where every human had a role in marking time, offering tribute, or celebrating cycles of life and death. You feel that continuity beneath your feet, the persistent echo of collective human effort, etched not in writing, but in geometry and placement. You step back and look at the horizon. The monoliths rise and fall like silent sentinels, watching over misty hills and valleys. The wind carries whispers, of grass bending, of voices carried through centuries, of ceremonies that blurred the line between the mortal and the divine. As night descends, the stars emerge, shining above these ancient markers. You realize that once again, you are standing beneath a sky that has guided humanity for millennia, and that across deserts, islands, and mountains, people everywhere have sought to connect Earth to heaven, life to memory, and the fleeting present to eternity. And as you walk away, the stones stand firm, silent yet unmistakably alive, monuments not of empire, but of persistence, curiosity, and devotion. The wind from Scotland fades, replaced by the subtle murmur of flowing water. You find yourself in a low, marshy plain where reeds brush your legs and the air smells of wet earth and fish. Here, a network of canals snakes across the landscape, glinting in the sun. You are in Venice before Venice, imagining the early settlements along the Venetian lagoon, fragile wooden structures rising from mud, bound by reeds and ingenuity, a city built entirely on water. You step carefully along a wooden plank, feeling the soft give beneath your feet. Around you, people paddle small boats, carrying fish, firewood, and clay jars filled with grain. Children skip across narrow bridges, balancing precariously, laughing when they fall into shallow pools. The city hums quietly, not with grandeur, but with survival, negotiation, and adaptation. Historians still debate when the first permanent settlements appeared in the lagoon, but by the 5th century CE, people were fleeing invasions on the mainland, carving out new lives on islands in the marshes. They brought not only families but traditions, commerce, and ingenuity, turning wetlands into livable spaces with canals, bridges, and wooden foundations. A mainstream fact, the Venetian lagoon was both sanctuary and trap. Floods could sweep homes away, saltwater corroded timber, and storms threatened everything. Yet the people persevered, learning to harness tides, channel water, and build structures that floated in harmony with their environment. Adaptation became an art form. You walk past a small dock. A merchant balances crates of fish on a skiff, while nearby, a woman pours water into a clay jar, testing its weight before securing it on her boat. Life here is intimate, immediate, and incredibly fragile. Every plank, every rope, every jar matters. Civilization teeters above water, yet it thrives. A quirky tidbit: early Venetians used pile foundations, long wooden poles driven into mud to support buildings, and the wood, submerged and sealed from oxygen, has survived almost 1,000 years. The ingenuity of a civilization, hidden in simple timber, quietly defies time. Historians still argue whether Venice emerged purely from necessity or from deliberate vision. Perhaps both. A society built from escape and invention, turning survival into something lasting and extraordinary. You imagine canals lined with markets, shrines, and homes, alive with music, language, and laughter, centuries before gondolas would glide under stone bridges. As dusk approaches, the lagoon reflects the sun like molten gold. You hear the echo of rowing, the clatter of wooden planks, the distant cry of seabirds. You sense the pulse of human adaptation, fragile, inventive, and profoundly beautiful. When you finally step away, the water shimmers behind you. You carry the memory of a city that balanced delicately between nature and ambition, where every movement mattered, every design counted, and every human act was a small miracle. Ahead lies another civilization, older yet, carved from stone and ice, where survival was not just creativity but endurance against extreme odds. The warm lagoon fades into a stark chill as you traverse northward. The air now carries the sharp scent of snow and pine, and the ground crunches under your boots. Before you rises a fortress not built from mud or wood, but from ice, stone, and relentless human will. You are in the shadow of Skara Brae, a Neolithic village on the Orkney Islands, where survival meant ingenuity, cooperation, and enduring some of the harshest winds on Earth. The settlement is partially buried in sand, preserved as if frozen in time. Low stone houses cluster together, connected by narrow passageways. You step into one, and the air smells faintly of peat and ancient hearths. Inside, furniture is carved from stone, storage bins set into the floors, and beds low to the ground, stone pillows included. Life here was intimate and deliberate, everything crafted for efficiency and endurance. Historians still debate whether Skara Brae was purely residential or held ritual significance as well. Some evidence suggests sacred spaces intermingled with living quarters, blurring the line between everyday life and spirituality. Every stone is a testament to survival, observation, and adaptation. A mainstream fact, Skara Brae was inhabited around 3180 to 2500 BCE, contemporaneous with the earliest pyramids in Egypt. Its preservation owes largely to sand and stone, which shielded it from wind and rain for millennia. When uncovered in the 19th century, it revealed a full snapshot of domestic life, one of the rare windows into Neolithic society. You wander the narrow corridors, noticing every carved stone shelf and storage compartment. The ingenuity is quiet but profound. In a land where wood is scarce and weather relentless, stone becomes furniture, wall, and vessel. You feel the rhythm of daily life, lighting fires, preparing food, weaving textiles, sharing warmth. A quirky tidbit, some beds at Skara Brae were stacked with stone pillows, which modern archaeologists believe were used for comfort, insulation, and possibly ritual purposes. Imagine resting your head on a stone each night, yet finding it entirely natural, familiar, even comforting. The wind howls outside, rattling the low walls, but inside, the village feels alive. Children might have played, adults worked quietly, and stories were passed from mouth to mouth, generation to generation. Every stone, carefully placed, contributed to survival in a world that demanded constant attention. Historians still argue whether Skara Brae's society was egalitarian or hierarchical. Perhaps it was both. People worked together, yet roles were defined, and knowledge of survival was highly valued. You sense cooperation in every wall and hearth, evidence of humans striving not only to endure but to thrive. You step outside, the sun a pale disk in gray sky. The sea crashes against cliffs, winds sweep across the settlement, and yet these stones, carved with care, remain. They speak of resilience, resourcefulness, and the quiet triumph of human ingenuity over isolation and extreme environment. Ahead, the horizon tilts again, warm this time, a desert dotted with stone monuments older than kings, yet vibrant with human endeavor. The icy winds of Orkney fade into the heat of the Sahara, where endless sand ripples like a golden ocean. You walk across dunes, the grains shifting underfoot, until stone emerges, rough, weathered, and arranged in deliberate patterns. You have arrived at Nabta Playa, a prehistoric ceremonial site in southern Egypt, where stones mark the sky, the seasons, and the cycles of life. The air shimmers in the heat, but you sense precision in the arrangement of the stones. Some are upright, some laid flat, others forming circles that could be mistaken for natural formations if not for the subtle intentionality in their placement. This was a place of ritual, astronomy, and social gathering long before pharaohs ruled the Nile. Historians still argue about Nabta Playa's purpose. Some see it as a proto-astronomical observatory, predicting solstices and seasonal changes. Others emphasize its ceremonial role, perhaps as a place of initiation, burial, or ancestor veneration. Whatever the interpretation, it reflects a sophisticated understanding of environment, time, and community. A mainstream fact: Nabta Playa dates to around 7500 to 5500 BCE, making it older than Stonehenge and many pyramids. Its stone circles align with the summer solstice, demonstrating early human engagement with the cosmos and a deep awareness of celestial cycles. You walk carefully among the circles. The stones are rough, yet arranged with care. You imagine villagers gathering here thousands of years ago, laying offerings, observing stars, telling stories. Firelight flickers in your mind, illuminating painted faces, ritual dances, and the steady hum of chants that echo across the sands. A quirky tidbit: some of the stones are carved with abstract symbols, possibly representing animals or celestial phenomena. Modern archaeologists speculate these might be early forms of symbolic language, communicating both memory and myth in a code lost to us. You almost feel the thoughts of these ancient people pressed into the stones. The landscape is harsh, yet life flourished. Seasonal lakes provided water, wild animals roamed, and the inhabitants cultivated grains and legumes. Their ingenuity was evident in water management, carefully positioning settlements near sources and anticipating the desert's capricious moods. Historians still debate whether Nabta Playa's builders were nomadic or semi-sedentary. The complexity of the site suggests prolonged occupation and collaboration, hinting at social hierarchies, specialized knowledge, and shared beliefs. As the sun dips low, the stone circles cast long shadows over the sand. You stand in the center, feeling the deliberate geometry, the knowledge of the stars, and the collective will of humans reaching back through millennia. Each stone speaks softly of time, ritual, and curiosity, of people who looked at the sky and said, "We belong to this universe, and we will mark it." Ahead, the world shifts again, to fertile river valleys, cities of mud brick, and the pulse of commerce that shaped early civilization. The desert sands dissolve into fertile river plains, where the scent of wet earth and growing grain fills your senses. You step into Uruk, one of the earliest true cities of humanity, where civilization first began to concentrate its energy, ambition, and imagination. The streets are narrow but bustling, lined with mud brick homes, temples, and marketplaces. Life is immediate, messy, and intensely human. You walk past the ziggurats rising above the city, their stepped sides reaching toward the heavens. Priests climb their terraces to observe the stars, offering prayers and sacrifices that will determine the rhythm of life below. Children run through alleys, chasing chickens and spilling baskets of dates, while merchants barter grains, fish, and textiles. You feel the pulse of human organization, each action a small thread in the vast tapestry of urban life. Historians still argue whether Uruk's rapid expansion was due to trade, religious centralization, or sheer population pressure. Regardless, the city is a marvel of coordination, ingenuity, and social complexity, hosting tens of thousands of inhabitants in a world without modern technology. A mainstream fact: Uruk is credited as the birthplace of writing, with the earliest cuneiform tablets emerging around 3200 BC. These records documented transactions, property, and social agreements, a revolutionary method of preserving knowledge and creating accountability. You pause beside a merchant's stall. Clay tokens lie in neat piles, each a record of goods exchanged, quantities measured, lives accounted for. You imagine scribes pressing wedges into soft clay, preserving mundane details alongside monumental events. Even the simplest economic transaction becomes a mark of permanence, an assertion that someone, somewhere, matters. A quirky tidbit: some tablets include early recipes, beer rations, and beer-related disputes, hinting that arguments over brewing are at least 5,000 years old. You smile, realizing that human priorities have hardly changed. Food, drink, and trade have always been central to life. The city hums as sun rises higher. Streets wind between residential compounds, gardens, and workshops where copper tools, pottery, and textiles are crafted. Water flows through canals, and animals provide milk, meat, and labor. Uruk thrives because its people understand collaboration, specialization, and the balance between survival and aspiration. Historians still debate the exact mechanisms of governance here. Some evidence points to centralized authority under a priest-king. Other interpretations suggest decentralized councils managing communal resources. Perhaps it was both, a society negotiating order through cooperation, religion, and necessity. You climb one of the lower ziggurat steps to observe the city from above. From this vantage, Uruk is a patchwork of rooftops, courtyards, and canals, a living organism ancient yet familiar. And as the sun casts shadows across the mud brick streets, you sense that the story of human ingenuity, struggle, and collaboration is far from over. Ahead, the landscape changes once more, beckoning you toward monuments carved in stone, islands of mystery, and civilizations that whisper across time. The mud brick streets of Uruk dissolve behind you, replaced by a horizon where rivers, mountains, and deserts converge. You step onto a bridge, not a literal one, but one of imagination, linking the civilizations you've traversed. Pyramids, moai, ziggurats, stone circles, and canals. Each human endeavor is a testament to curiosity, ingenuity, and the desire to leave a mark on the world. You walk slowly, feeling the pulse of history beneath your feet. In one direction, the Nile stretches toward the horizon, a ribbon of life that nurtured pharaohs and farmers alike. In another, the Pacific glimmers faintly, holding the silent moai of Easter Island. Across the desert, the stones of Nabta Playa catch the sun's last rays. The world feels simultaneously immense and intimately connected. Historians still debate how knowledge traveled between these places, whether through direct contact, shared ideas, or coincidental invention. Perhaps the more important lesson is that humans everywhere sought understanding of stars, water, architecture, and time. The methods differed, but the motivation was universal. A mainstream fact: civilizations developed independently across the globe: Mesopotamia, Egypt, Mesoamerica, Polynesia, and Europe, yet each created sophisticated structures, calendars, and social systems that continue to inspire awe. The persistence of these achievements reveals not only intelligence but also the human drive for legacy. You pause at the center of your bridge and look down at the river of memory flowing beneath. You see the faces of builders, scribes, priests, and children. You hear the soft murmur of waves, wind, and voices long gone. Every act, from carving a stone to aligning a temple with the sun, is a ripple across time, a small defiance of mortality. A quirky tidbit: some civilizations like the Nabateans and Teotihuacanos engineered water systems and architectural feats that remain functional today, a quiet reminder that ingenuity, once applied, can outlast empires. You walk forward, imagining bridges that span not only rivers but centuries, connections forged by human curiosity, creativity, and courage. The monuments you've seen are not relics but echoes, inviting reflection and quiet wonder. Each civilization contributes a verse to the ongoing story of humanity, a narrative written in stone, clay, and memory. As dusk settles, you feel the warmth of firelight in distant villages, the cool hush of deserts, the eternal rhythm of stars above. You sense that these achievements, though ancient, are not distant. They remain close, in the patterns we follow, the structures we build, and the curiosity that drives us to understand the world. You take a deep breath, the past and present mingling in the air around you. The bridge beneath your feet holds firm, a reminder that though civilizations rise and fall,